Look, that's as dominant as I've ever seen Joel. I felt in watching it in real time, I just felt so bad for the Utah Jazz. Just no real options to match up with him. And you saw that specifically in the fourth quarter where they played Lauri Markkanen and Jared Vanderbilt. And those were essentially the two guys that were guarding him. And the Sixers, I think, did a great job of mixing up where he was catching the ball. So he would catch it on the block. Obviously, they were doubling a big part of his 8 assists last night. But he's so good at recognizing when those doubles are coming that he's just going to catch it at the elbow, face up, and either wait for the double or go one-on-one. And there's just no answer with those two guys at that size.
Well, I saw a quote from Maxey after the game. We were talking about them calling like pick and rolls and stuff like that. And basically he was just like, no, just get the ball to Joe and get the fuck out of the way, basically. When he's playing like this, isn't that just the move? Just give him the ball and let him do what he wants?
I saw a great Doc Rivers meme this morning on Twitter, which was half of the meme was Doc drawing up a play on the clipboard. And then the other half of the meme was the clipboard and the words, "What can you do for me, 21?" And that's basically what that fourth quarter was. They did run some pick and rolls. Utah was in drop coverage. And I like that action too, as a different look for Joel to get the ball in that mid-range area, because you can't double him. And so if a team is in drop coverage and you know they're doubling when he posts up, go to that high pick and roll with Maxey, have him throw that pocket pass back to Joel, and all of a sudden his man is recovering to him. He's got the pull-up jumper. He obviously can get to the basket, and he's so physical. 24 free throws last night. Let's contextualize the dominance a little bit. Okay, so real quick, the stat line: 59 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 7 blocks. He's the first player with a stat line of 50 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 blocks since blocks became official in 1973. The 26 points and 5 blocks in the fourth quarter. He's the first player to do that in over 25 seasons. And of course, you mentioned this, I think, on your Twitter feed when he had 99, but he ended up with 101 points over 2 days in a back-to-back. Essentially within a 24-hour span, he put up 101 points. Just remarkable what he's doing. Over the last 8 games, 37, 10, 5, 2, and 1 on 66% shooting. There was all that talk, Tommy, all that talk about Joel being out of shape. And all of a sudden, it looks like another MVP type season for him.
100%. I have a question about the Sixers for you overall, though, moving forward. He's been doing this, obviously, without James. And is there a thing, not to say they can't play together or anything like that, because these are two Hall of Fame talents, they can figure it out, but is there something with a guy like Joe about having the ball in his hands, where he needs the ball in his hands more to have this level of dominance? And he was struggling, obviously, at the beginning of the year, and there's probably a bunch of reasons for that, but is it almost like with a scorer, where you need a certain number of touches to be able to get into this rhythm that it's hard to do when you have somebody like James?
Absolutely. It's no coincidence. Some of it, I think, is him getting back into shape. Maybe that plantar fasciitis feeling a little better. But you watch those first few games of the Sixers season. Joel was at his worst. And by his worst, I don't necessarily mean, he only had 24, 25, and 8. Like, Joel is at his worst when he's not fully engaged and when he's it's not sulking, but it's just like you can tell by the body language that he's not completely there. And I'll be honest, Joe and I talked about this last year. A bunch of people said this. When they got Harden, it was still Joe's team. And I think last year, Harden trying to fit in their pick and roll tandem of high usage pick and roll tandems had the most points per possession last season. But to start this season, I thought Harden got into that ISO game, over dribbling. We saw a bunch of stats on that in those first few games about how many dribbles he was taking relative to the rest of the team, relative to the rest of the league. And I don't think that's going to allow you to see the best version of Joel. And so as Harden comes back from this injury in a few weeks, I think it's important to note that this is Joel's team, that he's the guy. Harden, for whatever reason, I think has something to prove, or not for whatever reason. We can name some certain reasons why. He's got something to prove, and I understand that. I understand the motivation, But we need to recognize, if we're Philadelphia, like, we got to get the ball to Joel. We have to involve Joel as much as possible. Another thing to note, Tommy, Philly, for some early season defensive woes, they're up to 9th for the season. Over the last 5 games since Harden has been out, they're the number 1 defense in the league. And last night specifically, the Jazz, number 4 offense in the league, they were higher prior to last night. Philly just shut them down. When Joel is engaged on that end, he's up there in the top, 2 or 3 guys in terms of being dominant two-way players. This has been The Old Man and the 3 Things. You can expect these deep dives every week on 3 topics, relative and timely to the NBA. As always, thanks for listening. These episodes are available exclusively on Amazon Music.